And now this is the time, the final video we are putting out this year, unless I throw in a couple of live streams. But this is the last final produced video of the year, and this is the best movies I have seen of 2024. Unlike most people, they do best first and then end the year with a lot of negativity. I like to do the opposite. I released my worst movies of the year first. That way I can end the year with some positivity. So without further ado, let's get into the best movies that I saw this year. Okay, so real quick, a couple caveats. One, I have not seen every single movie that came out this year, so if there's some movies that you think should be on this list that aren't, it could just be that I haven't seen it. Also, there might be some movies that on this list that you go, that was one of the worst movies I saw this year. Okay, I mean, I disagree with you. Also, another thing worth pointing out is that some of these movies are an acquired taste. But, I mean, this is just, my opinion. Unlike the bad movies of the year, some of those literally are terrible movies. It's not my opinion. They're just flat out straight awful movies. But this one, I am willing to say, is my opinion, because it's more of a positive feel. It's not really a warning and whatnot. So anyway, so let's get into something that I started last year before the honorable mentions. And that is mentioning an excellent TV show I watched. Now, the reason why I don't really have TV shows in the list is because it's a list about movies, not television shows. And I don't watch that many television shows to warrant having them in a list or not. But like last year, I watched The Continental, and it was such a standout for me that I wanted to just mention it real briefly at the beginning. And that happened again this year with me with the show. And surprisingly, it came from Apple TV, which has had some of the worst shows I have ever seen. Like, seriously, do not watch Echo 3. It is the biggest piece of dog shit I've ever seen. But, like, this show surprised me, and that was Bad Monkey. This show, like, I was not expecting anything out of it, and once I started getting into the show, it was just like, wow, this is a lot better than this has any right to be. I mean, Vince Vaughn is freaking hilarious in this show. I was on the floor dying a couple of times. But the other thing is, like, the characters are all incredibly well developed. I mean, secondary characters, main antagonists, primary characters. Like, they just all feel three-dimensional. It's one of the few times, it's something, I don't like 99% of gay characters in movies and television because they're all one-dimensional. They're boring. And this is one of the few times where the gay character in the show was actually interesting, fascinating. I gave a shit about him. I actually want to see what happened with this character. And it's like, this is the difference between good writing and shitty writing. And this show had really good writing. I was fascinated by the villains in this show. I actually want to see what happened with them next. I don't have that happen with me a lot in shows. And so this was a very unique show unto itself, and surprising that it was Apple Plus, because so much on Apple Plus has been just pure dog shit. And so I was very pleased to hear that this got renewed for a second season, and just, I'm really looking forward to trying this show again. And hell, I may actually pay for an Apple Plus membership to watch season 2 of Bad Monkey when all the episodes came out. That was an obnoxious thing about the show. They released that episode by week, and I cannot stand that at all. But anyway, let's get into the honorable mentions. Some people like to throw this in between 2 and 1 to expand the, wait time of what number 1 is. I don't like doing that. I like having the honorable mentions at the tail end because the 11 are better than these. So, the first honorable mention is M. Night Shyamalan's Trap. This movie was weird because I was really, teetering on, is this going on the bad list or this is going on the good list? It's definitely going on one of the two, because there were moments in this movie that I thought sucked, but there was moments in this movie that I was just like on the edge of my seat, captivated, just like, wow. And the moments that sucked, I'm sorry, man, to M. Night Shyamalan, but like all the things focusing on his daughter, like there's times this movie felt like it was a demo reel for music producers for his daughter. And I get the setting, like I get that. But there's just too many times I'm focusing on Josh Hartnett's character, and then it's just like, let's stop the movie so you can see another number from M. Night Shyamalan's daughter. And it's just like, it really took me out of the experience. The parts of this movie that shined was Josh Hartnett as this mild spoiler if you haven't seen the trailers, because the trailers do spoil this, so it's not a big spoiler. But Josh Hartnett playing this serial killer was like fascinating me, especially the cat and mouse, like trying to figure out a way out of this place scenario. Like those scenes were like just perfect to me, and also a perfect like showcase of what you could do with a Hitman 47 movie set in one location. Like, just honestly, I was getting some really strong Hitman 47 vibes in this movie with Josh Hartnett, and he does a great job as the serial killer. And I thought that not only did the serial killer scenes work in this, but also a good showcase for what someone can do with a Hitman 47 movie. That being said, there were some bad scenes in this as well, and so I felt like it didn't justify being on the list, but I thought it did justify being in the honorable mentions or dishonorable mentions of one of the two lists I did, and I ultimately leaned on the best list, because it's just like, the scenes with Josh Hartnett really were excellent. It's just the movie really took me out of the experience every time M. Night Shyamalan wanted to showcase his daughter, I guess for music studios or something. The next honorable mention is Jackpot. Now, the reason why this didn't get onto the list as well is because, as far as I know, I'm the only person that actually enjoyed this movie that I've spoken to. I watched this with my parents. Both of them did not like this movie, and then I even had my girlfriend watch it, and she was not nuts about this movie. So this was like an acquired taste. It's like, okay, maybe it's just me, but I had fun with this movie. I enjoyed some of the dumb jokes. It's one of the few... Awkwafina, it's like half the time I don't find her funny at all. Her jokes don't land, and the other half of the time I'm on the floor dying. And this movie wasn't quite that, but it definitely wasn't that. It was like, okay, she has some funny bits in it. I love the dynamic between her and John Cena. I love the setup, kind of a Running Man type scenario. And like, honestly, I had fun with this movie. And apparently I'm the only one. So that's why it's only on the honorable mentions list. Next on the honorable mentions is Roadhouse. Now, I was not expecting a lot out of this, just because I don't like remakes of iconic films that don't need to be remade. But that being said, I had a lot of fun with this movie. Jake Gyllenhaal, I was glad didn't try doing Patrick Swayze. He actually felt more like a psychopath, soon-to-be serial killer than Patrick Swayze did. And there's just a couple of moments where like he has this crazy look in his eye, and it's like, is he the bad guy in this? I also love some of the techniques they did for actually showing full contact hits. They didn't do a lot of the traditional like fake work of like having someone like, you know, they don't actually hit, but it looks like they're hitting their face, if I described it well. And they actually like shot each like scene 3 times so that it looked like they were actually like hitting. Check out Corridor Crew. They get into how they did the fight scenes. It was just absolutely fascinating. I mean, Conor McGregor as the main one of the main bad guys, it felt like he was just having the time of his life being an asshole on this set. And it's like, it's always fun seeing actors like just enjoying themselves on a movie. The non-physical threatening bad guy in this also had some really good moments, and I also appreciate that, like, apart from the names, This is not the same story as the original Roadhouse. I do kind of like when remakes do that, kind of like with Magnificent Seven. That remake did not try doing the same story. It kind of did something else, and so you could kind of like go, okay, they're two completely different movies. I don't really have to compare them that much. I wish The Crow did that. But yeah, no, I had fun with Roadhouse, and definitely worth checking out. And then the last honorable mention, this one, I would say, is objectively not a great movie, but I had a lot of fun with it, and I think if you're just looking for a fun evening with an action film, you'll have fun with this as well, and that's Weekend in Taipei. Definitely, I was having fun laughing at some of the technical mistakes with my dad on this film. I mean, especially in terms of like law enforcement procedure or whatnot, like there's definitely some laughable moments, but we were laughing and we were having fun with this movie. And it's like, okay, if you don't take this movie seriously, it's good dumb fun. Luke Evans does a really fun job in this. I absolutely like a lot of his work. He's one of the only saving graces of Echo 3, and even he couldn't save that show. I'll try not to mention that show anymore. But like, no, this was a fun movie. I enjoyed it. It was good dumb fun. You usually can expect a fun movie from Luc Besson, even though he didn't direct it, he did produce and help write it, and he usually has these really fun creative stories anyway. So when I saw that he was attached to this movie, it's like, okay, yeah, I'll definitely check it out, and I wasn't disappointed. It was a fun movie. It's definitely a good popcorn flick for a night you can't find anything to watch and you feel like a little bit of action. But now on to the 11 best movies I saw this year. And at number 11 is Dune Part 2. Now, when the first Dune came out, it was much higher on my list. And it's not because that there was just so many great movies this year. No, I actually think the first Dune was a little bit better than Part 2. I felt the pacing was a little bit better. It didn't feel like it was trying to cram so much into the first one. That being said, the ending to Dune Part 1 is terrible compared to the ending to Dune Part 2. Part 1, it just abruptly ends. It's like, yep, it's over. And it's like, what? And Dune Part 2, it has a lot of like loose ends that you still need to like resolve with Dune Part 3, but it's like, okay, this is a good stopping point. This is a decent place to stop it right now. Couple things still not resolved, but like a far superior stopping point than Dune Part 1. So I enjoyed Part 1 better. I felt it wasn't as cluttered together as Dune Part 2 did, but even with that cluttered together feel, it's still a fantastic cinematography like masterpiece. I mean, the CGI is top notch, the camera work's top notch. There wasn't any real bad acting in this. They do a good job with like kind of the world building, and so like all in all, definitely enjoyed this film. Definitely want to see Part 3, and yeah, let's move on to number 10. At number 10 is a movie I've kind of been looking for a long time, and that is, with other cultures' cinema, I always kind of like, okay, what are the Chinese doing? What would be a good movie that I would suggest for someone trying? It's like, hey, I've always wanted to get a Chinese cinema, or with like Korean cinema. Like in terms of Korean cinema, a good starting place I would always send someone is Train to Busan or The Kingdom on Netflix. Like those two productions, they're both zombie related, but they're just so excellently well done. Or like The Man from Nowhere, great Korean film. And when it comes to India, I've always wanted to like kind of find that one movie that's like, okay, if you're at all interested in Indian cinema, try this. I've never come across it yet because I'm just not into Bollywood, the like dancing, the music, and like I wasn't nuts about Slumdog Millionaire, but I did finally find a movie that kind of like fits that, and that is Kill. Kill basically is Under Siege 2, but more realistic and less comically laughable. That being said, I really do enjoy Under Siege 2. It's like an objectively bad movie that I love to death. I always enjoy watching that movie. But Kill is like a more realistic attempt at the premise to Under Siege 2. And what's the premise to Under Siege 2? You have a guy start on one end of a train and just kill his way to the other end of the train. And that's kind of the premise. Not really. The premise to Kill is like, these like bandits decide to hijack a train and rob everyone on board, and there's this one guy who's like current military. He's like on his weekend going after the love of his life, and he's trying to just find his way to her. And so like, simple plot, but like the acting is excellent. The fight scenes are brutal, fast, and well choreographed. No dance number. And like, honestly, if you've ever been interested in watching something from India, I would highly recommend Kill. It is a fantastic action movie. I will say though, don't end the evening on it, because it gets to some pretty dark places in this film, and it does get pretty depressing at times. This is not like Die Hard. This is like, you might want to throw in a movie with puppies after this one. Just saying. At number 9 is a movie I did not want to watch, and only reason why I watched is because my girlfriend said let's go watch it, and then I saw a cameo that was going to be in it, and that's Deadpool and Wolverine. Look, the MCU burned me bad. Especially with Namor. Like, after that, I was done. I wiped my hands of the MCU. It's like, this franchise is dead to me. And so, Deadpool Wolverine was kind of like a course correction, as it were, for the MCU. I mean, yes, some of the jokes don't land, but it was so satisfying seeing Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine. He still has it. It was fun seeing him interacting with Ryan Reynolds. Some of the cameos were really fun. Some cameos I didn't think I was ever going to see in that role again, and it was just like, when I heard that person was back as that character, I won't spoil it for the few of you who haven't seen it yet, I was just like, damn, I'll watch it. And so, I mean, would I have written it a little bit differently? Yes. Would I have done some things differently? Yes. But I was grinning from ear to ear the entire time I was watching this in the theater. And it's like, you know what? Good job, movie. Good job. Now, am I back in the MCU? Of course not. I think Captain America Brave New World looks terrible. But it's... I have like a wait and see thing. Maybe the Russo brothers Avengers films will actually be good. I do like them, and I do like their work, so I don't know, I might be back for their stuff. At number 8 is a movie that came out at the beginning of the year and kind of just went by the wayside. Not a lot of people talked about it, not a lot of like fanfare, and it just kind of like came and went, and that was Land of Bad. Now, the title is stupid, and the reasoning for the title is really, 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 really dumb and stupid. But quite honestly, that's like my only real criticism of the movie. The overall premise is basically Behind Enemy Lines. Like, what if you took Owen Wilson's Behind Enemy Lines, didn't do one of those WWE sequels, and what if this was called Behind Enemy Lines Land of Bad? That's kind of what this movie is. It follows like this SEAL team and I think he's like a army engineer who's going to call in like the airstrikes for them, and the army engineer gets like trapped alone behind enemy lines and he needs to stay alive, and his only help is a voice on the other end of the radio, Russell Crowe. This movie was really fun, really satisfying, and I felt like they did a really good job depicting how brutal it would be being stuck behind enemy lines but still having some tech at your disposal. And overall, everyone did a great job. It was fun seeing Liam Hemsworth, doing a role like this where he's not unstoppable badass like his brother, but he's kind of like a fish out of water, and by the end of the movie he becomes an unstoppable badass. That was fun to see. I like seeing Russell Crowe. He's like this, I think he said 3-time divorce. I only saw the movie once at the beginning of this year, but like he's like this guy who's been divorced multiple times, and like he's still in contact with one of his ex-wives, something like that. I might really be getting that wrong, but he's just kind of like this deadbeat guy working as a drone operator in the Air Force, and he is the only help that Liam Hemsworth has on the other line, and he kind of becomes attached to Liam Hemsworth by the end of the film, where he actually gives a shit what happens to him. And it was a fun dynamic, and overall it was a really fun, entertaining action film, and definitely I would recommend you check it out if you're looking for a good military action movie one night. At number 7 is a movie I did review, and that is A Quiet Place Day One. This movie, I didn't know what to expect going to theaters. It's like, okay, seeing the origin of the alien invasion that the Quiet Place universe takes place in, like, that'd be fun. But I did not expect to enjoy the characters and their quest as much as I did. It's a dumb quest, but I get it. I totally get her reasoning for wanting to go to this one place with the world ending. And damn, that ending just, the way they cut to black, the way the music starts up with that ending is just like Shia LaBeouf clapping theme. Like, I was just, that was like one of the best endings of any movie this year, was with A Quiet Place Day One. And also, I think you could watch this without having seen any of the other Quiet Place movies, which is pretty good, and I don't think it spoils anything too bad for the first Quiet Place movie. So if you want to just start with this one, you probably could. At number 6 is a movie that I did review and unfortunately bombed at the box office, and it shouldn't have, was The Fall Guy. Man, did I have so much fun with this movie. It was a love letter to stuntmen, made by stuntmen. It was an appreciation to stuntmen, and it was a funny movie. I mean, honestly, I thought the movie they were filming in this movie was kind of dumb, but it was supposed to be dumb. It was supposed to be a dumb summer blockbuster action movie. The real core of the movie was the relationship between a director and a stuntman, the mystery behind this actor missing and this stuntman. And Ryan Gosling is just, like, always excellent at comedy, in my opinion. I always laugh my ass off whenever he does comedy, and like, I mean, you just have to watch The Nice Guys, this. I mean, I really enjoy his comedic moments in his career, and I mean, this was just an absolutely fun movie. I am actively looking for the extended cut so I could see even more of this movie, and so yeah, I would definitely recommend checking out The Fall Guy if you're just wanting to laugh your ass off for a fun evening viewing. And number 5 was a movie I saw more recently, and I was not expecting a lot out of this movie. I was just expecting, okay, alien invasion movie, I've seen a million of them, let's see how this one is. And it generally surprised me, and that movie's called Elevation. I was not expecting a lot out of this, and like, damn, this was a really fun, satisfying movie. The small cast of like 3 characters were all great. I liked all 3 of them. I thought their character motivations were great. The development was pretty solid. I thought Anthony Mackie did a really great job at this. His reasoning for leaving the safety of their, like, village made perfect sense. It's like, yeah, I totally would do that. And like, I was just hooked from the beginning of this, and kind of the new alternate things they do with the like enemy alien force was kind of interesting. I thought some of the rules they set up were kind of interesting, and I liked some of the things they were doing. You don't normally see with other alien invasion movies this level of like detail put into the enemy, and so I thought that was really good, and I thought they made it realistic as to how this enemy was able to take over the planet so quickly. And it's like, yeah, that's probably why it happened like that. So definitely if you want a good alien invasion story, check out Elevation. It was pretty solid. At number 4 is another movie I reviewed, and it's unfortunate that this one also was a box office bomb, and that was Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. I think the two reasons why this movie failed is, one, people were expecting a Mad Max movie to have Mad Max in it, and he wasn't in it, and so I think that checked out half of the audience that didn't show up, and then the other half that checked out were people that had just been burnt by too many female-led movies over the past couple of years. Unfortunately, past couple of years, we've been getting movies with girl bosses that are unstoppable. They have no flaws. They make no mistakes. They're perfect in every way, and they're just not given a chance to succeed. And people are kind of sick and tired of being hammered over the head with characters like that. And so when they saw the trailers for Furiosa, they just naively assumed that that was going to be the same thing. I was afraid that was going to be the case, but I also am a huge Mad Max fan, so I saw it at the theaters. And thankfully, that was not the case with Furiosa. She's a three-dimensional character, she makes mistakes, she has faults, but she learns from her mistakes, and she is a girl boss, but she's like the good kind of girl boss. She's not the shitty kind of girl boss, where she's just perfect at everything. No, like, the bitch literally loses her arm in this movie because she didn't go left when she should have gone right. You know, and so it's like, you know, Anna Taylor-Joy did a great job as a younger Charlize Theron. And so, but like, Chris Hemsworth clearly was having the time of his life doing this role, playing this bad guy. I mean, it was so obvious that he was just enjoying every minute of it. It seemed like everyone had a really good time making this film. I liked all the characters. It was just a fun, fantastic action film. There's some really great scenes in this movie, and honestly, I had such a good time with this movie. I would recommend you check it out, and then I would also recommend, once the credits start rolling, hit stop and then jump into Mad Max Fury Road, because the credits just show you scenes throughout Mad Max Fury Road all the way to the end of the movie, and it's like, I didn't want to see Fury Road after watching the credits, so don't watch the credits and then just jump into Fury Road. And it's kind of fun watching those two movies back to back. Now, number 3 was a movie I saw at the theater, and I did a 40-minute spoiler-free review on, which I will acknowledge was a bit excessive. But I was super excited to see this movie. I thought it was going to be a perfect 11 out of 11 movie, and it wasn't. I had some issues with it, but ultimately, in the end, I really enjoyed Alien Romulus. I know this isn't an Alien Romulus shirt, but it is an Alien shirt, and I wanted to wear it because I was super excited to be having this movie on my list. Alien Romulus, a lot of YouTubers I watch have been shitting on this movie, saying it's actually not that good and it's just a poor imitation of better movies. I guess they could be right in some regard, but quite frankly, I have to disagree with them because yes, there are some bad parts to this movie. Yes. You cannot understand Bjork to save your life. Yes. The one cameo in this movie that was deep-faked, I would have done slightly differently, but I was okay with it. There are some callbacks, like callback lines, I liked half of, I hated half of. Like Andy saying, I prefer artificial person myself. That kind of made sense to me because, like, all androids would have that in their programming to appear more proper. But the get away from her, you bitch line really felt out of place. It didn't work. So half of them worked, half of them didn't. But the thing I loved about this movie was the effectiveness of their budget management and the practical effects. Now, it wasn't 95% practical effects like some of the people were saying to lead up to this film. It was more like 70 to 75% practical effects, and then like 25% CGI, which I'm perfectly fine with. They managed to get people who worked on the original Aliens film to work on this in terms of the practical effects department, which is just so awesome and amazing, and I was just so happy to hear that. It was so cool seeing practically made aliens again. I mean, I enjoyed Alien Covenant, but it was such a slap in the face seeing a fully CGI alien through the entire movie. It's just, come on, man. It was perfect back in the 70s and 80s. Why'd you have to spoil it? And it was so amazing seeing them come back to actual practical face huggers and xenomorphs and aliens. And it was just... Say what you will about the story, there might have been some hiccups with the story, a couple of plot holes with, lead into the second Aliens film, but I really enjoyed this film. I think a lot of people are going to see Alien Romulus, and Aliens as the real Alien trilogy, ignoring Alien 3, even though I actually enjoy most of Alien 3. I think it's a bit of an underrated film, but I get people's hatred of that film. There's that one thing that just really is unforgivable about Alien 3. That's new in Hicks. But, I mean, honestly, Alien Romulus was so satisfying, and I'm really glad that they greenlit a second one with Fede Alvarez coming back to direct and write. It's like, Fede, please don't get rid of the practical effects. Maybe go a little bit out of the norms in terms of writing, because they were kind of playing a little bit safe with Romulus. Very similar feeling environments and whatnot. So, like, with this next one, you could, play around with it, go a little bit crazy. It would be kind of nice to see the whole David story arc wrapped up, maybe with the next one. But overall, I absolutely enjoyed Alien Romulus. I thought it was a really fun movie, and definitely worth checking out. And number 2 is The Killer's Game. I was not expecting a lot out of this movie. It just seemed like a good, dumb action movie to see at the theater. Me and my significant other, we went to go see it, and we both loved this movie. She was laughing the entire time. I was laughing the entire time. This is a funny, great action film. And one of the two best aspects of this movie is the camera work and the stunt choreography. They did not skip out on the fight scenes. They actually delivered on the fight scenes. Couple of issues with characters attacking someone one at a time, but they still were really good fight scenes, and I really enjoyed them. Some really fantastic, wild, colorful side characters, like Scott Adkins, like brother duo from Scotland, was fantastic. I loved Terry Crews in this. Dave Bautista and Sofia Boutella, they kind of had this fun chemistry with each other. And then the camera work. There's this one montage scene of doing these really creative, inventive shots. I was just saying in the theater, damn, this is really good camera work. And so overall, I really had a lot of fun with this movie. And also, it's one of those movies that has a definitive ending to it. It doesn't sequel bait, it doesn't end on a cliffhanger, it doesn't tease this massive world. It wasn't trying to pull a John Wick. It's just hey, here's a fun movie about assassins, it's over, enjoy. Now, at number 1, I was really trying to decide what number 1 was going to be. And usually what helps is a movie that you give a perfect score out of. I reviewed this movie. I did not give it a perfect score. But every now and then, as a reviewer, you do have movies where you watch it, you review it, you give it the score, and then seeing it again, you kind of feel like you want to change your score. And this was a movie that I gave a 10 out of 11 to, and upon watching it a second time, I kind of feel like I want to switch it from a 10 to an 11. Because funny enough, this year, I did not give a single game or movie a perfect 11 out of 11, because I don't like to throw those out like candy. I want to throw those out when I feel the thing actually deserves the award, unlike some companies. But with this movie, I feel like I did not give it a proper score. I should have given it an 11 out of 11. And yes, I know, I'm dragging this out. That movie is Boy Kills World. I was not thinking this was going to be that good of a movie. I was thinking, okay, seems like an interesting concept. At best, I hope for this to be an okay action film. Okay? And for some reason, they did not want to release this movie for the longest time. Like, they did a quick showing at, like, I think TIFF or Cannes Film Festival. And then it was like a year till it actually came out. And it's like, when's this coming out? When's this coming out? It was shown already at a film festival to like one audience, and it's not coming out. When's it coming out? And then finally, it got a release date for theaters. Me and my girlfriend went to go see it, and we had a fun time with this movie. And this movie was such a great ride. I mean, I loved the like crazy, I think it was like a post-apocalyptic world that this was taking place in. This like revenge quest of this deaf mute guy who like was training in the woods his entire life to get revenge for the death of his family. And like Bill Skarsgård, he's the type of actor that has made some bad choices with his roles, but he also has had some pretty surprising picks for the roles he decides to play as. Like, this guy was Pennywise, and boy, did he get shredded for this movie. And it's like, yeah, we call that range. And like one of the best aspects of this movie is the fact that he can't speak, he can't hear anything, so his internal voice is not his actual voice. It's off this like arcade video game that he played as a kid, and that's the only voice he can remember. So the voice does not match his body, his internal like monologue, but it also is like the perfect match made happen in terms of an internal monologue in like this scrawny guy's head, and it's just perfect. It leads to some of the funniest lines in the movie. I absolutely loved all the characters. They did a really good job with some of the development. And one of my criticisms was the camera being way too close in some of the fight scenes. But watching a second time on the smaller screen in my house, it's like, okay, you know what? It's not that bad. I mean, I still notice it, but it's not that bad. You can see the fight scenes pretty excellently. And then another thing I noticed was there's this one twist in the movie that the moment they like laid out the first inkling of a thread of that twist, it's like, it's this, isn't it? And I called it. It was just like so obvious to me. But then this movie comes around and just throws in another twist right behind that I did not see coming. I'm just like, what? I was just like, what? So that was kind of clever that the movie kind of hid that twist behind the obvious twist. But so this was a really excellent movie. Another movie like the last one completely ends at the end of the movie. There's no cliffhanger, there's no sequel bait, and I love that with movies. I'm not saying so, but it's kind of refreshing when every movie does that, and the last two movies I talked about didn't do that. Killer's Game and Boy Kills World. These movies didn't do that. It's like, look, it's just this. And it was fun. It was entertaining. And Boy Kills World is one of those really excellent action movies that has a really solid score. Like, some of the beats that start playing during certain fight scenes is just like, yeah, if I ever get in a fight, I want that music to stop playing. I mean, it's just really great fight choreography. I would say some of the best fight choreography I've seen since like John Wick. And the fight choreography in Fall Guy and Killer's Game was top tier excellent. So that's just to show you how great the fight choreography was in Boy Kills World. And so ultimately, in the end, yeah, this was the best movie I saw in 2024. Hands down. If you haven't seen this movie, go check it out. It is a bloody, fun, good time. And so anyway, those have been the best movies I saw of 2024. What did you guys think? Please let me know what you thought the best movie 2024 was. It may be something I haven't seen. Say it off in the comments down below. I want to know your opinions on this. My name's Christopher Carl with Lemon Reviews, and I will see you all next year.